Amazing single mom left with $7 on a blind date. You won't believe what the CEO discovered. Emma stood in front of the mirror, her reflection a weary portrayal of the life she had fought so hard to manage. The restaurant date loomed, an adventure she had reluctantly agreed to thanks to her sister's relentless nudging. She smoothed her dress, an ill-fitted reminder of her disconnection from the life of luxury, thoughts racing. Was she truly ready for this? With 2 kids to raise and bills piling high on the kitchen table, could she justify a night out? Her phone buzzed with a text her sister, full of optimism. A familiar knot formed in her stomach. Emma swallowed hard, caught in the tension between hope and reality. As she walked into the restaurant, her heart thudded in her chest, not excitement, but the weight of expectation. She scanned the room and spotted Mark, a man dressed in an expensive suit, confidence radiating off him in waves. Emma felt self-conscious, her thrift store dress suddenly glaringly out of place. She approached the table, a mix of determination and dread coursing through her veins. This was her chance, she reminded herself, a shot at something more than the grind of daily life. But as dinner progressed, Mark's arrogance pierced through the small talk, each dismissive comment making Emma shrink a little more in her seat. Why was he so smug? Did he even see her? The earlier anticipation crumbled into dismissiveness, and with every critique he tossed her way, she felt a cold sting of shame. She battled with her self-doubt, thoughts swirling. Was it all a mistake? Should she have just stayed home? Mark's phone buzzed, and with a glance to her, he abruptly stood. The table felt endless as he left, taking with him a newfound feeling of worthlessness. Left with just $7 to cover her meal, Emma felt the familiar sting of humiliation. Her cheeks burned as people glanced at her with pity or judgment, reminding her of every moment when she had been overlooked or underestimated. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue back home. Emma closed the door gently behind her as her children slept peacefully. The weight of the night suffocated her resolve, wrapping her in despair. Could she even look at herself in the mirror again? The humiliation felt unbearable, and a sense of panic threatened to disrupt the fragile peace she had fought so hard to maintain. But then, a flicker of defiance ignited within her. No, she wouldn't let a single man define her. She had 2 beautiful reasons to rise beyond these moments. Their smiles, pure and undiluted, were worth fighting for. Ignoring the echoes of judgment haunting her, Emma began to see the truth. It was time to reclaim her power. Meanwhile, Mark sank into the plush furnishings of his luxury apartment, the taste of regret bitter against his tongue. He replayed their conversation, realizing his arrogance had chased away something genuine. An unsettling curiosity began to unfold in him, mingling with the loneliness he felt in his success. Leaving Emma, he felt a void. What had he overlooked in pursuit of power? Emma had shown him a glimpse of life stripped down to vulnerability. As the night deepened, he found himself contemplating reaching out, wondering if he could learn from the woman whose strength resonated deeply, igniting a surprising desire to connect. In the depths of the night, Emma stood before her kitchen table, the bills a reminder of her struggles, but she felt different, fiercely aware of her resilience. This was no longer just about surviving, it was about thriving against the odds. She had faced worse, a single bad date wouldn't break her. Her thoughts raced, determined to stand strong amidst the humiliation. She pictured Mark again as she resolved to face the world anew, unaware that his thoughts were swirling around her too, weaving an inevitable crossroad of uncertainty. Would she let him back into her life? Would she dare to hope again? The next morning light streamed through the kitchen window, illuminating the piles of bills and the clutter that had become all too familiar. Emma stood in front of the coffee maker, the scent of brewing coffee filling the air, and for a fleeting moment, she allowed a small smile. Those moments with her children, their laughter, and uninhibited joy grounded her in a way nothing else could. It was a reminder that life could be beautiful, even amidst chaos. Yet, the bitterness of last night clung to her. Emma poured herself a cup of coffee, her thoughts still on Mark. What had sparked his interest in her, even if only for a fleeting moment? She had first rejected that idea, convinced that a man like him could never see the strength hiding under layers of self-doubt and rejection. But she found herself replaying their exchange the way he had briefly looked at her, an unguarded flicker of intrigue hidden within his arrogance. As she chewed on a piece of toast, Emma's phone buzzed with a notification, breaking her from her reverie. A message from her sister. "How about a girls' night this weekend? Need a break?" A break? The idea sent a pang of guilt through her. Her responsibilities were relentless, as were the responsibilities of someone in her situation. But, aside from her practical concerns, a part of her longed to immerse herself in laughter and friendship, a fleeting escape from the weight on her shoulders. It was time to invest in herself. Inspired by the thought of that night with her sister, she decided to put a plan into motion. She pulled together her sparse wardrobe, searching for outfits that made her feel confident, not enough to impress Mark, but enough to remind herself she was worthy of feeling good. As she contemplated the clothes she owned, something new ignited within her. The day stretched ahead, friends to connect with, errands to run, and a clarity to embrace. She took her son and daughter for a walk to the park, breathing deeply, allowing the warm sun to fill her. Their laughter rang in her ears, and she felt renewed. A fire ignited. She would not remain another day lost in self-pity, drowning in the expectations of others. By the time they returned home, inspiration struck. Emma sat at her desk, a forgotten laptop gathering dust. It was time to model the things she wanted to instill in her children: resilience, perseverance, and the audacity to dream. She began drafting a blog, that fledgling whisper of hope blooming into a structured plan. It would be a place to share her story, to connect with other single parents battling isolation, to unleash the feelings she had buried. Emma clacked away on the keyboard, letting raw emotion spill on the screen. What if this was her way to reclaim her voice? She decided to intertwine her strengths and vulnerabilities into each post, a mixture of pragmatism and heart. Emma felt energized as her fingers flew over the keyboard. A wave of excitement washed over her as she envisioned creating a community, a network of support for people like her, those navigating similar journeys of struggle and self-discovery. Yet beneath that excitement lay fear. Would anyone care? Would anyone relate to her? The evening settled in, and her children were asleep. Emma stared at her draft, at her reflections and hopes, an amalgamation of tears and triumphs. She felt raw and exposed, but also invigorated. She was reasserting control over her narrative, refusing to be a passive player. She hit save and leaned back, taking a deep breath. This was merely the beginning. Yet as she prepared for bed, the phone buzzed again, this time a message from Mark. It read simply, "Can we talk?" Emma hesitated, her heart racing at the potential for yet another encounter. This time, the stakes felt higher. Would she even want to? The silence in her room was heavy, filled with the echoes of her choices ahead. What path would she take next? Could she explore this connection with Mark, or was he still a harbor of disappointment that would take her down once more? Questions spiraled within her, thickening the air around her as she pondered her next move. Emma woke the next day, the morning light breaking through her windows like the first hint of freedom. She had spent a restless night considering Mark's invitation to talk. That little message seemed so innocuous, yet it spun webs of anxiety across her mind. What could he want? Her heart fluttered with dread and anticipation, a duality that both repelled and drew her into possibility. Still riding the wave of inspiration from yesterday, she had a plan for the day. Before even considering Mark, she would further develop her blog. The idea felt liberating. For Emma, it wasn't just about sharing her experience, it was about defining who she was outside the roles of mother and ex-wife. This was her opportunity to carve out a new identity from the fragments of self-doubt and fear that clung to her like a weary cloak. She brewed her coffee, the rich aroma revitalizing her. History had taught her to bury her want for self-fulfillment, but the intensity of her resolve strengthened her. Settling in front of her laptop, she began drafting the first post. The topic was personal, a reflection on her decision to pursue her passions, even if the world implored her to remain subdued. Each word felt like a step forward, building a foundation for both herself and her readers who might relate to her narrative. However, in the back of her mind, the nagging question persisted: should she confront the possibility of a rekindled connection with Mark? After a few productive hours, Emma decided to take a break and go for a walk with her children. The outside world beckoned with its scents and sounds, she needed to let the fresh air invigorate her spirit. During their walk, she noticed how her children's laughter echoed in the air, bright and unfiltered. That joy filled her heart with a profound sense of purpose. They were why she fought so hard. They needed her to be strong and happy, not just for them, but for herself too. Returning home, rejuvenated yet thoughtful, Emma revisited her blog draft. This time, however, she began to consider her vulnerabilities more deeply. Could she write about her fears regarding relationships? The intrigue she felt toward Mark, the fear of repeating past mistakes, these were raw, honest elements that could resonate with others. When her phone buzzed again, a sharp thrill shot through her. Mark was persistent. "Can we meet?" his message read. Emma stared at it, a wave of conflicts crashing within her. Would going public with her thoughts overshadow this developing connection? Was it time to explore what lay beneath the surface? With a blend of nervousness and exhilaration, she typed back, "Sure, where and when?" As she pressed send, a rush of doubt flooded her. Mark embodied both promise and threat, his allure was palpable but carried the weight of her past. Would he be the fresh breath she craved, or another chapter of disappointment? Her pulse quickened, uncertainty knotting within her. Beyond the thought of Mark, here lay an even deeper revelation: could she navigate both her new direction with the blog and this seemingly risky venture into personal vulnerability? The air thickened as she put her phone down, aware that this meeting could alter the path she had just begun to carve. Emma was stalled between a familiar pain and the tentative beginning of something new. Tension brewed within her, but deep down she understood that whatever she decided would shape not only her destiny but also the legacy she wished to create for her children. How could she face Mark and remain authentic to her newly discovered self? As dusk crept closer, casting elongated shadows across her living room, Emma felt a powerful truth: the time had come to face not only Mark but also her own insecurities. Would she step into the light composed and confident, or would she allow the darkness of doubt to consume her once more? The moment of truth was near, and with her heart pounding and her mind racing, Emma found herself on the brink of a choice that could define her next narrative. Fear relaxed its grip for a moment, replaced by an unexpected thrill. She was ready to embrace uncertainty. Would she manage to keep her newfound independence intact, even if it meant risking it all for the possibility of connection? The day of her meeting with Mark dawned bright, yet Emma could not shake off the pall of apprehension that loomed over her. The sunlight illuminated her path, but inside, shadows danced with her uncertainty. Preparing herself for the conversation was a task that stretched beyond merely selecting an outfit. She stood before the mirror, her reflection a blend of her past and potential future. Today, she wouldn't just be Emma the mother or the ex-wife, she would embrace her very essence, the person she was becoming. She chose a simple yet elegant dress, a touch of confidence lending color to her cheeks as she pinned her hair back. The reflection looking back seemed less frail, more resolved. Today was about more than Mark, it was an affirmation of her growth. Each conscious decision to tackle her insecurities was a whisper of strength. She practiced her breathing, grounding herself in the present, reminding herself of her intentions' clarity and openness. Her heart raced as she made her way to the cafe they had agreed upon. The comforting aroma of coffee filled the air, brushing against her senses like a soft caress. Yet, each step felt weighted with the gravity of her decision. As she entered, she spotted Mark already seated at a table in the corner, his expression veering between uncertainty and hopeful anticipation. An old part of her ached to run away, to shield herself from the possibility of disappointment. But what if this was different? What if they could build a new narrative? "Hey," she offered, her voice steadier than she felt. Mark stood, smiling awkwardly as he motioned for her to join him. The initial setup felt familiar yet alien, the remnants of their shared history coloring the moment. She sat, arranging her thoughts like her coffee cup's delicate saucer, precise but vulnerable. "Thanks for meeting with me," he began, running a hand through his hair, the same habit she remembered from before. "I've thought a lot about us, about everything." The words hung between them, palpable and charged. Emma's pulse quickened. This was her moment, it was time to lean into the discomfort. "Me too," she replied, searching for the right tone. "I want us to be honest about where we're at." The words flowed out, as if a dam had burst within her. Confronting their shared past felt daunting, yet the vulnerability made her heart race with a different kind of exhilaration. As they exchanged thoughts, Emma found herself outlining her fears and hopes, voicing the doubts that had plagued her for years. With each word, she felt the weight of anxiety lift, revealing the clarity she had been searching for. "I'm trying to forge a new path, you know. My blog is not just a hobby, it's my reclaiming." Mark listened, his expression shifting from surprise to understanding. He seemed more receptive than the man she once knew. "I'm glad to hear you're pursuing what you want. I've had my own journey," he admitted, our past colliding with their current realities. But as his eyes searched hers, Emma was struck by a different realization. Connection doesn't just mean rekindled romance, it can also bring clarity, pushing them both toward self-awareness. They didn't need to return to what was, they could build something new, together or apart, but from a place of honesty. The prospect was frightening and invigorating. Yet doubt crept back in, a familiar companion. Would opening up make her vulnerable again? Could she maintain her newfound independence in the face of such personal connection? She felt the tension coiling within her, an urgent question nagging at the back of her mind. Would Mark be the catalyst for further growth, or would he pull her back into the depths of dependency? The conversation continued, weaving between laughter and reflections, but beneath the surface, Emma sensed the crucial moment approaching. Then, suspended in time, the inevitable question emerged. What are we doing? What do we want now? Sweat beaded her brow as she faced the truth of his inquiry. Each heartbeat resonated with urgency, a reminder that her narrative was still being written. It was more than a meeting, it represented a pivotal collision of lives. She needed to choose not only whether to reconnect but how that choice would fit into the tapestry of who she was becoming. And so Emma took a breath, prepared not just to answer but to consciously define her next step. Would she dare risk it all for potential connection, or would she break away, fortified by the knowledge she was enough on her own? The decision loomed before her, anchoring her resolve. And just as she felt ready to articulate her truth, a shadow of doubt interrupted her thoughts. The cafe door opened abruptly, drawing Emma's gaze like a moth to a flame. Standing there, silhouetted against the bright light, was someone who would challenge everything she had just begun to realize about herself. Would this unexpected presence steer her deeper into uncertainty or towards the clarity she desperately sought? Emma's breath caught in her throat. The newcomer, a striking figure who commanded attention, was none other than Tara, a former colleague and a fierce force in the tech world. They had shared countless conversations about ambition and potential, yet Emma hadn't seen her since she left her corporate job to pursue her dreams. Tara's arrival felt like a spotlight illuminating Emma's vulnerabilities and aspirations all at once. "Oh, Emma. Is that really you?" Tara exclaimed, her voice brimming with genuine surprise. She swept toward their table with elegance, her presence a potent reminder of what Emma aspired to be. Emma's mind raced. Now was not just a moment of reconnection, but a real test of her transformation. "Tara, what a surprise," Emma managed, the smile on her lips tinged with a hint of confusion. She cast a glance at Mark, whose expression mirrored her own amazement, his thoughtful demeanor now interrupted by this unexpected reunion. "Mind if I join?" "I was just about to grab a coffee," Tara asked, her eyes dancing between Emma and Mark. "Of course," Emma replied, her voice steadier than she felt. What was this encounter? A distraction or a divine twist of fate? As Tara settled into the vacant chair, she plunged into a spirited recount of her latest entrepreneurial venture, her excitement infectious. Emma found herself drawn into the discussion, but beneath her enthusiasm lay a subtle pulse of self-doubt. She could not help but compare her current path to Tara's. The question echoed back in her mind, am I enough? Mark listened, engaged but clearly perplexed. Emma felt the shifting tides of their conversation sway around her, threatening to wash away the threads of their earlier dialogue. She had come to define her own narrative, a narrative currently suspended between past and future. "Emma, you should totally come by the office sometime," Tara said, catching Emma off guard. "We're launching a new initiative, and I'd love to have your insights. You always had such an eye for detail." A mix of pride and trepidation caught in Emma's throat. Was this a recognition of her capabilities, or merely flattery? It sparked something within her, an ember of ambition that had lain dormant for too long. "Thank you, Tara. I'd love to," Emma said, surprising even herself with the resolution in her voice. The words slipped past her defenses, quietly bolstering her courage. "Fantastic. Let us connect later, yeah?" Tara beamed, her energy naturally buoyant, drawing Emma back into their shared history, one of late nights and pitched ideas that had once ignited a fire within her. As Tara chatted animatedly with Mark, discussing brands and visionaries, Emma felt the weight of her internal conflict simultaneously intensify and shift. With each word exchanged, she recalled the raw truth she had spoken earlier to Mark, the desire for clarity and purpose. But here she was, once again faced with the abyss of comparison. Could she excel in her personal pursuits while still feeling tethered to someone powerful and dynamic like Tara? What did that mean for her burgeoning identity? "Emma," Mark said, pulling her from her reverie, "what do you think?" Her heart raced. The question, seemingly simple, plunged her back into the moment. As she prepared to articulate her thoughts, the tension thickened. The landscape of her life felt like a chessboard where every move had strategic significance. With Tara's unexpected presence, she could either embrace the power of collaboration or retreat into the shadows of self-doubt. The conversation buzzed around her, yet Emma found herself at the brink of an essential decision, embracing the opportunity or retreating to safeguard her fragile sense of self. The stakes were high, and as she gave voice to her thoughts, a clearer path began to unfurl before her. "Honestly, I think we all have something unique to bring to the table, like blending perspectives for innovative solutions," she finally said, her tone firm and clear. But just as the glimmers of possibility began to illuminate her future, Tara leaned in closer, her words laced with an unexpected challenge. "Let us see what you can really do, Emma. I'm up for testing your limits." "Are you?" Emma's heart raced, a blend of thrill and apprehension igniting within her. Was Tara's proposition an invitation to prove herself or an ultimatum threatening her new sense of independence? As the words hung in the air, the realization struck Emma: this was not merely a gathering of old acquaintances, but a defining moment in her journey. Would she rise to this challenge and redefine her role in the world, or would she retreat into the safety of her familiar comforts? The stakes loomed ever sharper, as the cafe around them blurred at the edges. Emma stood on the precipice of her own potential, but would she leap into the unknown? Emma could feel the heat rising in her cheeks as Tara's challenge hung ominously between them. Questions swirled in her mind, tangled with a growing resolve. It was as if the universe had conspired to confront her at this very moment, pushing her toward a decision that felt monumental. "Test my limits?" she echoed, almost incredulously. Tara met her gaze unwaveringly, her confidence a stark contrast to the turmoil broiling within Emma. She desired to deflect, to sidestep this impending confrontation, but Tara's presence felt like a catalyst, both invigorating and intimidating. Yes, why not? Tara leaned back, a playful smirk dancing at the edges of her mouth. You've always had it in you, Emma. Too bad you've been sitting on the sidelines for too long. Emma's heart thumped in her chest. The edges of her identity as a creator and an innovator suddenly felt sharper, more defined. Could she rise to the occasion? The faint echo of her past self whispered doubts, warning her of bitter failure. Mark's voice cut through her thoughts. What kind of initiative are you considering, Tara? He appeared genuinely interested, mirroring the curious spark igniting in Emma's chest. Tara turned back to Mark, launching into an enthusiastic explanation about their upcoming project, an app designed to revolutionize remote teamwork, aiming at a seamless integration of tools that empowered users. She spoke with passion, illuminating the gaps in the market with ideas that danced in the air between them. Emma listened, drawn in. Each word was like a thread weaving her deeper into the visionary fabric of Tara's endeavor. It was exhilarating and daunting simultaneously. She imagined herself weaving her own ideas into this tapestry, yet shadowed by a voice that cautioned her to remain pragmatic. Sounds incredible, Emma offered, her tone tentative yet laced with curiosity. Collaboration is so vital nowadays, especially with everything being digital. Exactly. Tara exclaimed, her eyes sparkling. We need creative minds who understand that scope. And you were always great at seeing the unseen patterns. Emma nodded slowly, feeling the compliment wrap around her like a shawl. It was warmth she hadn't expected, yet it did little to quell the gnawing fear inside her. What if she faltered? What if her contributions were insignificant when pitted against the brilliance of others? The threads of doubt started weaving tighter with every breath she took. Could she truly grasp this opportunity to marry her aspirations with the driving force that was Tara? Or would she stand by while her inner ambitions faded into the mundane reality of her day-to-day life? Mark broke the tension again. Emma, you know your strength lies in detail and strategy. Perhaps you could create an outline of potential features or functionalities. The suggestion struck her like lightning, illuminating a path through the fog of uncertainty. Emma could do this. Absolutely, I'd love that, she heard herself say, her voice firmer now, infused with a newfound clarity. Tara's enthusiastic approval felt like a seal on her resolve. As their conversation flowed, Emma began sketching mental outlines, envisioning how she could contribute her unique perspective. In the backdrop, internal conflicts raged. Every idea seemed to prompt two competing thoughts. The promise of possibility and the shadow of doubt mingled into a cocktail of excitement and anxiety. But no longer could she allow self-doubt to chain her to the life she'd been hesitant to leave behind. Maybe this was the very leap she needed, the chance to test her mettle against a challenge presented by someone she respected deeply. Could she redefine her path, using her strengths to effect change in this rapidly evolving tech landscape? With that thought crystallizing, she glanced at Tara, who was scanning the cafe for inspiration, her focus unshaken. For a fleeting moment, Emma envied Tara's assuredness yet felt exhilarated by her own budding determination. As their conversation wound down, Tara leaned in once more, her tone light but the implications heavy. I'll follow up with scheduling. Don't keep me in suspense, Emma. I'm counting on you. The air crackled between them. Emma felt the pulse of her ambition surge as Tara rose to leave, her presence filling the space with infectious energy. Now, the world outside seemed to explode in color and possibility, yet behind that exterior shimmer, Emma's uncertainty still lurked, waiting for her to falter. Would she dive fully into this opportunity or drown in her fear? The choice brewed anew, and as she felt Tara's absence leave a palpable silence, Emma realized the next step was hers to take. Amidst the excitement of pursuing fresh avenues, a question loomed larger than before: how far was she willing to go to prove her worth not just to Tara, but to herself? Feeling the weight of her potential resilience, Emma's pulse quickened. The moment had arrived to confront the boundaries of her own capabilities, and the horizon ahead painted a picture of both terror and thrill. As the vibrant sounds of the cafe filled her ears, Emma understood that the time had come to face the challenge and expedition into the vast unknown of her own ambitions, but this was just the beginning. What awaited her as she dared to take a step forward remained a tantalizing mystery. Emma's pulse raced as she left the cafe, a mixture of exhilaration and apprehension propelling her forward. The cool air was sharp against her cheeks, an invigorating reminder of the commitments she'd just made. She clutched her phone tightly, the memory of Tara's challenge echoing in her mind. What was it about Tara's belief in her that lit a fire within? Emma had spent too long enveloped in shadows of self-doubt, allowing her insecurities to dictate her life. Today, however, a shift had occurred, a small but potent transformation in her perspective. As she walked home, Emma began mentally cataloging the features she could suggest for Tara's app. Innovative tools for collaboration sparked in her mind, each idea swirling with practical nuances that showcased her strengths. Yet darker thoughts crept back in, pushing against her burgeoning confidence. What if these ideas were inadequate? What if she stumbled during the presentation, exposing her lack of experience? She shook her head, determined to banish those doubts. To succeed, she needed to embrace vulnerability and uncertainty, acknowledging that growth required stepping outside her comfort zone. She quickened her pace, driven by the urgency of her internal dialogue. The carves of doubt might linger, but she would face them head-on. Arriving home, Emma took a deep breath, grounding herself in the familiarity of her surroundings. She could hear the muffled sounds of her children in the next room, their laughter a soothing balm against the lingering nerves. It struck her how her ambitions were not just about personal growth but also about setting an example for them, showing her children the strength of pursuing one's passions despite fear. Desiring quietude to gather her thoughts, she settled into her small home office, a space cluttered with sketches and ideas waiting to be realized. Emma pulled out a notebook, a refuge where she could channel her creative energy. The ink flowed as she jotted down every concept for Tara's app, detailing potentials for user engagement and ways to enhance productivity. Each stroke of the pen felt liberating, releasing the tension tightening her chest. Hours flew by as she lost herself in the task, the fear of failure gradually overshadowed by a sense of purpose. Emma glanced at the clock with surprise. Time had slipped through her fingers. But there was still one more piece missing: the presentation. She needed to frame her thoughts cohesively, finding a way to articulate her vision to capture not just Tara's attention but respect from all involved. The next morning came too soon, heavy with anticipation. Emma woke early, her mind already racing through the notes she had compiled. Deciding to rehearse her presentation aloud, she paced around the house, letting the words flow naturally. She pictured Tara and Mark sitting across from her, engaged and interested, motivating her to find the right pitch. Yet, as she spoke, parts of her stuttered, faltering in front of her imagined audience, a reflection of her self-doubt rearing its familiar head. Frustrated, Emma stopped, closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Was this how it had to be? Would she remain stuck, second-guessing her voice? With newfound resolve, she faced the mirror. "You are capable," she whispered, the affirmation aiming to penetrate the veil of uncertainty. The reflection stared back, urging her to embrace this risk. The professional life she longed for was just within her reach. She felt the weight of her children's dreams resting on her shoulders, a gentle yet firm reminder that she wasn't just fighting for herself. As she left for the meeting, Emma felt a shift in her core, a quiet strength surging beneath the surface. This was her stage, her moment to claim, and she would not retreat into the shadows. Later that day, as she stood in front of Tara and Mark, the air thick with anticipation, Emma could feel a kernel of determination taking root. This was her opportunity, and she was prepared to seize it. But as she began, a sudden thought struck her. What if revealing her ideas transformed more than just her career? What if it sparked a chain of events that would expose hidden facets of her personal life she hadn't yet confronted? The moment lingered, suspended between potential and apprehension. Emma understood she was on the brink of something monumental. All she needed to do was speak and hope she could navigate the unfolding journey ahead. As Emma stood before Tara and Mark, their expectant gazes fixed on her, a new depth of clarity broke within her. She felt the weight of her aspirations and vulnerabilities collide, and instead of crumbling, she embraced the pressure like a diamond forms from coal. The podium felt like a trampoline, each idea pulsing to life beneath her, ready to launch her into a realm she had only dared to dream about. "Thank you both for giving me the chance to present my ideas," she began, her voice steadier than she anticipated. "I believe we have a unique opportunity to create a collaboration platform that not only facilitates communication but inspires communities." As she spoke, the initial flicker of fear transformed into a steady flame of conviction. Emma paced gently, her hands animated, mirroring the vividness of her imagination. She unveiled her concepts, detailing innovative features such as task-oriented group discussions, gamified metrics for engagement, and intuitive interfaces designed for all user levels. Each point ignited a spark of enthusiasm in her, propelling her forward. But then came the moment of reckoning. She sensed Tara's keen insights and Mark's analytical gaze weighing her ideas meticulously. And as they nodded, Emma felt a surge of adrenaline. These were not just her ideas on the table, they were testaments to her growth, her journey from being an uncertain dreamer to a determined innovator. Yet amid this realization, a nagging doubt surfaced. Were these ideas genuinely as groundbreaking as she had hoped? Even as the presentation flowed, vulnerability crept in, threatening to disrupt her momentum. Would they see her for more than just a single mother with the courage to dream? Was her worth tied solely to this presentation? She pressed on. User feedback channels she started, but suddenly stopped, grappling with a sense of confrontation. Tara leaned forward, her expression inscrutable. "Emma, this is good. Really good," she said, yet there was an intensity in her eyes that made Emma pause. "However, I want to ask you something. Are you designing this app simply to appease a market need, or do you genuinely believe this could change lives?" The question hung in the air like a taut string, pulling at Emma's core. Did she truly believe in her vision beyond the confines of the screen? A part of her faltered. Could she face the truth behind her motivations? Her mind raced to the faces of her children, their laughter, and dreams. She needed to confront this. "I believe it can change lives because I want my children to know that dreams are worth pursuing, no matter how fierce the obstacles are. This project is not just about entrepreneurship, it's about empowerment, for me and for others." Those words poured out with a strength that surprised even her. The vulnerability she feared only sharpened her clarity. She wasn't merely a participant in someone else's vision, she was an architect of her destiny, and she was ready to design a life of purpose. Tara exchanged a glance with Mark, a small smile teasing her lips. "That's what I wanted to hear, Emma. You have to believe in your creations." As the meeting drew to a close, Emma could feel the gears of her transformation shifting. She realized that the stakes extended beyond professional ambitions, they touched the very essence of who she was becoming. Walking out, there was an exhilaration coursing through her veins, yet the uncertainty still lingered. The post-presentation buzz began to fade, and Emma was left to confront the deeper questions lurking beneath. What did it truly mean to adopt this new identity? Could she balance her responsibilities while blazing a trail in a field dominated by others? Emma's steps quickened, a mixture of excitement and trepidation swirling within her. There was a world outside of this meeting room, filled with challenges that awaited her. But even more pressing was the question that loomed large in her mind: how would she bridge her vision with her reality when the weight of personal expectations felt heavier than any corporate burden? She took a breath, ready to embrace whatever came next, because the journey had just begun, and the road ahead promised both discovery and confrontation. Emma stepped into the bustling corridor, the echo of her presentation still ringing in her ears. The vibrant chatter around her felt both exhilarating and disorienting. Her heart raced, fueled by the realization that she had not only presented a proposal, but had unveiled a part of herself that she had long kept hidden. This was new territory, promising yet fraught with the jagged edges of self-doubt. In the weeks following her presentation, something shifted within Emma. As she delved into the technical aspects of her project, she enrolled in online courses, pushed herself to understand coding and design principles. These were unfamiliar domains, yet she plunged into them with fervor, pacing her living room as late-night lectures streamed through her laptop. Each click of the mouse, each line of code she deciphered felt like a step taken on uncertain but firm ground. But as her knowledge expanded, so did her expectations. Every time she learned something new, she could feel the weight of those expectations pressing down upon her. It echoed through every corner of her mind during quiet moments. Was she doing enough? Did she really have what it took to bring her vision to fruition? The fear of failure crept back, wrapping itself around her like a cloak, suffocating yet oddly familiar. It was one particularly late evening, flipping through a notebook filled with ideas and sketches, that Emma stumbled upon a small, dusty page tucked amid her fervent notes. In neat, cramped handwriting, she had penned a list of dreams. They weren't solely business goals, they were personal aspirations, everything from traveling to Paris to volunteering at a local soup kitchen. Instantly, heat rose to her cheeks, a mix of nostalgia and resolve. What had happened to that Emma, full of dreams beyond success, beyond corporate metrics? Determined, she began to integrate those dreams into her journey. She reached out to other single mothers in the community, arranging casual meetups. Sharing her experience became another layer of her development. The conversations ran deep, touching on fears and failures, triumphs and ambitions. Emma quickly realized these connections weren't just social, they were therapeutic. They were reminders that her experiences were shared, that her aspirations resonated with others. However, not everyone understood or supported this evolution. A tense phone call with her sister brought this to light. "Why are you focusing on this app? You're just spreading yourself too thin, Emma. You have kids to take care of," she snapped, a tone laced with judgment. The sting of her sister's words lingered, cascading into Emma's mind as she dissected each syllable. Was she indeed being selfish? Each time she faced doubt, it wrapped around her tighter, as if to judge her pursuits, framing them as distractions from her responsibilities. She stood in front of her bathroom mirror days later, grasping the counter tightly, wrestling with her feelings. Mustering resolve, Emma took a deep breath, allowing the emotional storm to settle before she spoke to her reflection. "I am not selfish for pursuing my dreams. I am teaching my children to believe in themselves, just as I have to." Empowerment and clarity surged within her, igniting a fire that felt unquenchable. Those moments of self-reflection, however painful, established a cornerstone of her development. Emma realized she was redefining her identity, no longer just a single mother striving for success but a trailblazer of her own dreams. Yet, beneath her composure lay an urgency, a growing desire to prove herself, to break free of the need for external validation. Emma's vision was no longer just about the app, it was about a stance against her own doubts. The thought of reaching a tipping point loomed over her like a storm cloud, stirring a sense of foreboding and potential. Every challenge she faced now painted her journey with vibrancy, teaching her that doubt could be an ally rather than an enemy. However, she knew that as her aspirations expanded, so too would the trials. Could she brave the forthcoming challenges without losing sight of what she truly valued? With those thoughts ricocheting in her mind, Emma decided to take on the next big step, pitching her ideas to a panel of investors, where the stakes would soar. The moment of truth was approaching, and with it, the certainty that everything she had built, her dreams, her identity, would be tested like never before. The day of the pitch arrived, radiant sunlight filtering through the tall glass windows of the conference room, illuminating Emma's path to opportunity. The air hummed with an electric vibrancy as she stepped into the room. She felt different, transformed, shedding the remnants of doubt like a snake sheds its skin. This was more than just a pitch, it was a declaration of her newfound identity, her vision finally taking flight. As she adjusted her blazer, Emma caught a glimpse of her reflection in the polished glass, a confident woman ready to seize her dreams with both hands. Last night's rehearsals echoed in her mind, but this time, she wasn't just reciting, she was sharing a piece of herself, a narrative of resilience that had unfurled through stumbles and rises, and beautiful imperfections. The panel settled in front of her, a mix of sharp suits and inquisitive expressions. As she began, she turned her focus inward, tapping into her passion. Today, I'm here not just to present an app, I'm here to create a space for connection, empowerment, and community among remote teams, she spoke, her voice steady and clear. With every word, she felt the reservoir of strength deep within her speak, adding layers to her pitch. This was more personal than transactional, this was about fostering belonging in the digital landscape. She unfolded her ideas on features, user engagement, and collaboration, drawing on her experience as a single mother who had navigated the complexities of work-life balance. Each design element reflected her journey, echoing the themes of nurturing and support that shaped her life. The room, initially steeped in skepticism, began to capture the energy she projected. "Emma, tell us what drives your vision," one investor interjected, a penetrating gaze fixed on her. She inhaled deeply, tapping into the core of her truth. "The desire to empower individuals, particularly those who feel isolated in their professional lives, is my driving force. I've walked that path as a single mother, often alone in a crowded room and determined to show my children they can chase their dreams, too. This app isn't just about collaboration, it's about building a family, a community, even in a digital setting." The weight of her words hung in the air like a challenge. She watched their expressions soften, and she would not let the moment pass. This was the culmination of her growth, not only professionally but personally. She had confronted failure, doubt, and exposure, yet here she stood, resolute and ready to embrace her aspirations wholeheartedly. As she wrapped up, she sensed the palpable shift in the room. The investors leaned in, sparked by her determination and authenticity. Questions followed, rich conversations emerging, marking her first corporate dialogue that felt less like a transaction and more like an exchange of ideas. In that moment, she was free. Returning home that evening was transformative, Emma's heart raced with excitement and accomplishment. No external validation could overshadow the sense of fulfillment she had unearthed within herself. As she entered her house, her children rushed toward her, their laughter filling the space. "Mommy! How was it?" They chimed in unison, their eyes sparkling with admiration. "It was wonderful, baby," she smiled, kneeling down to their level. "I shared something really important, something I believe can help many people. Do you remember when we talked about pursuing dreams?" Both children nodded eagerly, engrossed in her words. "I took a big step today, one step closer to making a difference," she said, their unfiltered laughs echoing around her, the energy infused with pride and love. That feeling solidified Emma's transformation. No longer defined by external judgments or lingering insecurities, she was a confluence of visions both personal and professional. Confidence thrummed in her veins, no longer overshadowed by previous setbacks. Weeks passed, and the anticipation of feedback culminated in an email that would mark another pivotal moment. The investors were interested. They had seen in her proposal a spark of potential, a reflection of not just a business idea, but a mission that resonated with them. Emma's idea was no longer abstract, it was fueled by real intent, revealing the depth of her growth. With news of the investment, excitement electrified the air. Emma realized she was no longer on the fringes, she had stepped onto the stage of evolving possibilities. This achievement was not merely about the app, it was about asserting her rightful place in a world that had often overlooked her brilliance. That evening, as she settled down with her children after dinner, a feeling of gratitude enveloped her. She was not just a single mom trying to navigate her way, she was Emma, the visionary, a woman who had faced down her fears and emerged transformed, ready to lead. In retrospect, the contrast from where she had stood on the date with Mark felt revolutionary. Each encounter and interaction held a lesson, stitching together the fabric of empowerment and ambition. Emma basked in the joy of her journey, knowing with firm conviction that her tale would intertwine both courage and vulnerability, leaving a legacy for her children that would resonate with generations to come. This was her testament, her journey toward fulfillment, a story that began alone but grew among a thriving, engaged community of dreamers who believed in connecting, innovating, and finding their voices. Emma had not simply conquered her doubts, she had created a life that radiated from her core, a life filled with passion, purpose, and an unwavering readiness to embrace every opportunity that lay on the horizon. And in that realization, she knew, this was not just her ending, it was an expansive new beginning. Now is the time for you to step into your own journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to keep up with exclusive emotional stories that inspire transformation. Leave a like right now to feed the algorithm and help share these empowering narratives. Don't forget to comment below with your thoughts and theories about this inspiring conclusion. Share this video right away with at least 5 friends who need to hear this story of overcoming adversity. This is your moment to show your support.